In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, discussing a potential cooldown that is upcoming in the medium range. We're also going to be diving into what is now expected to become a hurricane slamming into the Gulf Coast. This tropical cyclone has really taken a lot of people by surprise, but it's in reality the one that we've been tracking across the Atlantic for weeks now has finally decided to develop over the southern Gulf of Mexico, and unfortunately will be bringing impacts to the Gulf Coast and even further northward into a lot of the eastern states. There is other storms to discuss, including tropical ones, so we're going to be diving into all of that today. Let's dive into things, take a look at it, and I'm going to be showing this regularly. I think it's important to kind of go over the past and kind of recognize what we've seen. So I want to try to make this a commonplace in our videos, but we do see below average temperatures have really been the trend over the past 7 days here, and this is valid as of today on the 9th. So we're looking at the 2nd through the 9th here. A lot of Texas, the Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic here has been pretty far below normal. For a 7-day period to see the dark blues into the greens is a significant departure from what's typical. That means all of these areas over the past 7 days have averaged being 10 degrees approximately below normal. So that is very, very significant. And it all comes due to this warm up that we've had here for these areas where we've seen really warm temperatures along the west coast. And I've mentioned this time and time again, but this causes the cold to spill down into the southeast of this warm air mass. And we do see that occurring here just as kind of expected. We've talked about this for a while. Now, let's talk about the future. We do have our tropical system here located here across the Gulf. It's currently, according to this model, 1003. I think it's a little bit lower than that. We will look at the National Hurricane Center's cone forecast in a little bit. They do expect this one to become a hurricane not too long from now, and then eventually slam somewhere into Louisiana likely. Texas, Mississippi still should keep their radars up, no pun intended, but be on the lookout for any potential shifts to the east or west in this track. Regardless, Texas, even Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida will be seeing precipitation from this system, so it will impact you guys in some shape or fashion. Let's take a look at tomorrow afternoon and where we're at with this one. A much stronger system, 996, and sometime tomorrow night into the next day, Wednesday morning, is when we expect to see that upgrade to hurricane status. It is looking very healthy on satellite, and we've mentioned it, but the waters are very, very warm out there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this one overperform. And by overperform, I would be talking about category 2 and up at this point, so keep that in mind. Let's take a look at what ends up happening by the time we're reaching Wednesday afternoon, and we see this one down to, I can't even tell what it is, I think 982. So it is now rapidly intensifying as it's approaching Louisiana. As you can see, bringing precipitation to all of these areas to the north of it. Some winds could start to pick up already by this point on Wednesday afternoon, and definitely the flooding potential will get going. Now, as far as the jet stream is concerned, we have something along these lines. Again, we talk about it as like a very subtle kind of jet stream as it moves eastward. This should bring pretty neutral temperatures to a lot of the east. Above average, certainly here below this ridge, and below normal here to the west of that ridge, kind of in the Pacific Northwest. We do see a lot of storms coming on shore as we have a racing jet stream off the Pacific, kind of surging northward here across the Rockies. This is going to bring these guys quite a bit of precipitation over the next few days. Here is, well, let's look at the strike here. We get it at some point between Wednesday and Thursday, maybe overnight there. This is 2 a.m. on Thursday, and we see a 977 millibar tropical system, likely hurricane, slamming into central Louisiana, bringing precipitation to many different states here, as you can see, pretty far spread. Expect some pretty strong winds. Significant storm surge could be possible, and flooding is certainly going to be a possibility with this one, although it is a quick mover, so it could be worse, but I don't want that to make any of you downplay it. There is a lot of precipitation expected here at this point. We continue to see showers taking shape here across the northwest, northern Rockies, and even the southwest of Canada there. So that is going to continue to be the case. As we reach Thursday afternoon, we see this low is still rather strong, probably still a tropical storm between Arkansas and Mississippi there. And also in the corner there of where Louisiana meets with those two states. So somewhere in there is where we're seeing this tropical system located. As it weakens, expect to see the precipitation spread out. We see that oftentimes, so a pretty far stretching area of precipitation as a result of this tropical system. We do see a 992 taking shape between Wyoming and Montana here. Jet stream is kind of doing an S around these areas. And what we see is cooler air being allowed to move in here, with warmer air really trending to the north here. That is why we're seeing our first little bits of snowfall here between Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. They're very interesting. We're going to be seeing a lot more of that coming up, so this is just a sneak peek into what to expect moving forward. By Friday afternoon, we see the heart of our tropical system is somewhere between Arkansas and Missouri. Still a lot of precipitation spreading out further and further throughout the southeast, even the Midwest and Ohio Valley here as well. We do see that this precipitation has subsided a little bit up there for the northwest. We still have a low here in Saskatchewan. I think that's what that province is, but we see precipitation dipping down into Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. Let's take a look here as we move towards Saturday here on the 14th. Heart of your tropical low is going to be here, really died down by this point, but we still see the kind of the impacts left over from this one still around. So that is definitely going to be the case here. Let's take a look at by the time we're reaching Sunday afternoon, and this storm is continuing to die down. So we are seeing this storm really slowing down as you would expect. The jet stream ridging well over the United States here into Canada. So expect overall warmer temperatures here across the central and some of the eastern states, although there is some backdoor cold. We see some dippage in here. Some backdoor cold still able to make its way down the east coast here, which has been a common trend here over the last few weeks. So let's go ahead and move this forward towards Monday on the 16th, and we see some heavier precipitation throughout the central and the southeast states here. Definitely interesting to say the least, probably still associated with that tropical system. We see across the northwest here, we're seeing precipitation as this jet stream is still trying to do a trough there along the west. We're seeing some storms being allowed to move in with that overall lower pressure, which is typically located within troughs. So we are seeing a very interesting setup here. Let's take this one step further towards Tuesday, and we see this ridge is expanding. So is the trough out west. We're seeing something like this. So cold air pushing into the west. I know you guys have been really hot lately, so this is going to be a welcome sight for many of you. Plenty of storms around for all of these areas. Showers, snow showers, even for Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, maybe even Colorado there. Stronger low over eastern Montana, but some other low pressure systems around, which is going to work in tandem here, as you can see, bringing precipitation to many different states. As we move towards Wednesday on the 18th, we see this low from Montana moves northward, 991, again into maybe Saskatchewan there. We see a low developing over Nebraska here, 998, and this one is pretty significant. Warm front here. We see some rising thunderstorms to the south of that, which isn't too uncommon. So that storminess is expanding throughout the Midwest and some of the Gulf states as well there. And then as we move into a little bit of Thursday, we see this low really just weakens. We see 1,002 there maybe between Nebraska and Kansas. Precipitation really common here throughout the Rockies and Midwest still. And we're seeing snowfall even for Utah, Wyoming, Montana, maybe even Colorado here. So those Rocky states seeing continued snowfall. Let's take a look here at the total precipitation, and what we're seeing is that the northern Rockies are likely seeing an above average amount in this pocket. Also for a lot of the Gulf Coast here with our tropical system even stretching up into the Midwest should be above average. In the browns, we're seeing 5 to 10. We're seeing some of that here associated with this tropical system. Even some of these blues approaching Louisiana could come on shore if we see a trend in a wetter direction. That's going to be 10 to 15 inches. So again, could be worse. We've seen these tropical systems that are slow moving be worse than this, but this is kind of the expected amounts that you would see with this type of system. So I would say about average for the intensity of the storm we're seeing. We are seeing highly above average precipitation due to that for a lot of these areas. You can really tell where the storm tracks and spreads out over these northern areas. That's why we see the area get larger and larger. We can see a lot of the Northwest and Northern Rockies as well as some of Western Canada in this above average category as well. And we remain below average throughout a lot of the plains, Midwest, Great Lakes, and then even the east of Canada into the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and portions of the Southeast there. Let's take a look at the temperature anomalies. Currently still under this cool down. We do have warmer air on the way. We can see this East Coast area tries to remain cold. Again, we have some backdoor cold air kind of moving east of the Appalachian Mountain Range there, while the rest of the central and eastern states, for the most part, are above normal. This area here is going to be from our tropical system. These oftentimes bring colder temperatures underneath them, and we're seeing that take place here. Look at these lows, or the high temperatures on Thursday, actually. We're seeing about 15 to 25 degrees below normal in these blue areas, and that is definitely a far amount from your averages. So we're seeing far below average temperatures here underneath your tropical cyclone, which again is quite common. Kind of equally to the north here, we're seeing above average temperatures for a lot of the Midwest, Northern Plains, and Great Lakes, while we see this cold air mass build for the west, which is really allowing for this warm up to take place here in the central states. We really get a lot of the same here. This colder air mass kind of sticks around there for the west. We do see signs of colder times here in the east, where we're kind of getting these areas in the below normal area, and then up to the north warmer, so pretty upside down compared to what you would expect, but this does happen from time to time, and we really get a lot of the same until about the 21st here. This is when things get interesting. So I gave you guys a little bit of a teaser there, but above normal temperatures start to spread in for the west, and usually this is the beginning of what pushes these cooldowns eastward. So we see this take shape. That warm up rapidly expands for the west, where we're seeing almost the entire western United States and western Canada warm up, and this forces this cold air to the southeast here, much like what we've seen here in this recent pattern. Far below normal temperatures. This is Tuesday the 24th. The greens are again 10 to 15 degrees below normal, and some of these blues in here being 15 to 25. So another hefty Arctic blast moving into the eastern states, and that lasts through the 25th here on this GFS model. That is beyond 10 days out, so take it with a grain of salt. I'll have a little bit more of some solid kind of thoughts on this a little bit later on, but for now, that is kind of what I'm seeing. Now, the CFS daily model, as we look at these 5-day increments, here's the 10th through the 15th. 15th through the 20th, warming up in the east, as you can see, without the exception of that east coast. Same for the 20th through the 25th. We see this western cold air mass really taking hold. And then 25th through the 30th, we're not really seeing the big cool down on this model. So another reason to be a little bit skeptical and take it with a grain of salt. We'll definitely track it moving forward, though. We do see the 30th through the 5th. We see an expansion of that cold in the east, where it warms back up, though. We do see a more solid cool down for the 10th through the 15th time frame, and even the 5th through the 15th through the 20th time frame of October could get towards Halloween time in a little bit of a below normal pattern here for a lot of the east. Only time will tell, of course. Here's the next 30 days overall. As we look at it, we see below normal for the west, which shouldn't come as a surprise. We saw this trending in on all of the models we looked at today. Warmer for a lot of the east and central states, but with the exception of this Gulf Coast up the southeast, where some slightly below normal temperatures could prevail. We're seeing agreement there on all of the models we looked at today as well. Your European AI model, again, I've gotten a lot of comments like, if this isn't good, then why do you even look at it? It's really interesting to me. I think it's for entertainment mostly. You know, we would never go solely off of this model yet, I don't think, versus the European model or the GFS model. It's not up in that echelon yet, but what's kind of interesting about this European AI model is that they have allowed it to kind of update and improve itself as it goes. It's learning from what it's calling for. It's comparing what it's calling for versus what happened. And ultimately, that should show improvement over time. So we're going to continue to monitor this and wait until we start to see successes on this model. I think that's going to be interesting if we can be a part of that history, because this might be the future of weather models. I know a lot of you might not like to hear that, but if these AI models can do great, then that's that. It's going to help many people out, and I think everybody should feel pretty positive about that. I'll be curious to see if we get more of these models in the future. I know there is another one available here on WeatherBell, which I use every day. We don't really view that one as much. I think this one being in the European model family makes it a lot more interesting, of course. Now we see our Gulf system. We also see plenty of activity in what we call our MDR. That's a little big. Right here is your MDR. And this is the area between Africa, which I'm drawing the coast there, and then the Eastern Caribbean. In between there is called the Main Development Region, short is MDR, and that's because it's the main area where we see development oftentimes. Although most of our tropical systems have not come from here or developed in here this year, which is shocking considering we have record high temperatures in the ocean in this area, which should give it just, you know, we should be much higher as far as the amount of storms we've seen and really, unfortunately, the amount of devastation we've seen, but we really haven't. We've been very fortunate, and I think everybody should also be happy about that. I'm just sharing positivity today, I guess. That's the theme of today's video. Let's watch the Gulf system. We see that one develop not quite as strong as the European model, slamming into, I would say, further east in Louisiana than what the European model shows. We'll have to see if that ends up coming true or not. And then we see that one break up and expand over time. We do see some action in that MDR area, but really nothing develops too much. Even through the end of this model run, as you can see on the 24th, we don't ever really see anything come together. So that is the theme here from this European AI model as of now. Speaking of the MDR, let's dive into the 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook. We will dive into our newly named Tropical Storm Francine in just a moment. But let's talk about these areas in the MDR shortly. And we have one further west here. This one has a 60% chance of development, both through the next 2 days and through the next 7. So even if it doesn't develop over the next 2 days, there is still a rather high chance that it does develop after that, more than the flip of a coin. So odds are we will see development of some shape in this system. The one to the east of it, though, closer to Africa there, does have a 30% chance of development over the next 48 hours, which is lower, obviously, than that one to the west of it. But over the next 7 days, it does have a 70% chance of development, which puts it into that code red category of being a high chance of development. So we're going to have to watch this one very, very closely. Although it is heading kind of towards the northwest, this one probably has a better chance of just being a ocean storm than impacting much land. But we'll have to wait and see. As history tells us, you know, these things can do unexpected things. We do see the cone forecast here for Tropical Storm Francine. We see this one is expected to become a hurricane by 7 p.m. tomorrow on Tuesday. Remaining hurricane status until it slams into Louisiana. This, the National Hurricane Center is showing 7 p.m. on Wednesday about landfall in central Louisiana there, before dropping down to obviously tropical storm status well inland by 7 a.m. on Thursday, just 12 hours later. We'll have to see if they expect further development than even this, or if we're going to remain at about a category 1 once all things are said and done. We're only 14 miles per hour away from reaching hurricane status, so this one has really good chances of hitting at least hurricane status. We'll have to see if it can develop further than that, though. We will keep you guys up to date with this, of course. Here is this European AI model's spaghetti model plot. And what we see is that a lot of these individual models are showing this storm get a lot stronger. 60, 70, even 80 knots being forecasted in here on some of these models before slamming into Louisiana. This would put it as a very, very strong storm, even compared to what the National Hurricane Center is calling for. So some model guidance suggesting that this one could be a problem. Speaking of problems, the MDR storm, actually the further west one in this case, we do see a lot of these members bringing it towards maybe the Bahamas and Southeast here. Really kind of unknown at this point. We do see some curving this one out to sea, but some are just tracking straight west, which is a dangerous look, and getting this storm very, very strong. Even in the kind of 70, 80, 100 knot range, which is very strong. So take that with a grain of salt, but this one does have a chance to develop into something big. We do see a lot of these models also showing the further east system getting at least tropical storm status, maybe fringe hurricane status before curving out to sea. So that one looks rather innocent as far as land is concerned as of now. Of course, we will be tracking all of these things over the coming days. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, we will keep you guys up to date with all of these things. So be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.